Hi, it's Fountain, and today I'm going to talk about van life slash camping cooking tips. Now, myself, I've been going to festivals for many years, and I've been also sort of part-time van life living in the weekend kind of thing. Basically, just van life adventures in the weekend, quite a lot, especially 2020. It's probably going to be 2021 when I release this one. So yeah, what a year. Anyway, so I thought it'd be really good I could share some tips on things that I found to really help. These are pretty broad tips. I know a lot of us like to eat different things and we might have different amenities. So this kind of series of tips is best for those that have no fridge and you don't really have running water. Obviously, not having a fridge, you're not really having to worry about things like power, and obviously not having running water, you don't have to worry too much about plumbing. So it's pretty easy in that sense, but it can be a little bit more time consuming, and for some people, they prefer the comfort of having a fridge and having running water. So that's absolutely up to you as to what kind of setup you want to have, whether those things are available to you or not. Now, I think the first thing to really think about is what utensils are actually really necessary for what kind of food you like to cook. You know, like, do you want to invest in getting a really good sort of cast iron pot? You know, do you have a lot of foods that you really like to chop a particular way? So you're going to want like some very particular knives. Are you going to want, you know, maybe like a flat grater instead of like a standing triangle square grater, so it saves you on space? You know, things like cast iron, they're often really easy to clean, and obviously they're a lot heavier, but they can last longer. Things like knives, you want to make sure you get, you know, the one or two knives that are just going to serve all purposes if possible, what you're actually going to be cutting. You know, and then things like space with that grater situation, you're going to be thinking about, well, what's really necessary and what is something you're not really going to use very often, if at all. Now, another good tip is to clean as you cook, especially if you've got more than one person with you. So if you're cooking, you've got someone else with you, if you can get them to clean as you go, it makes it a whole lot easier. And as you know, when you leave food on surfaces for a little while, you know, it can get a bit stickier and it's a bit harder to clean off, and often you're not always having like a lot of water around. You might be in a place where you've got to obviously bring in your own water to clean, so you don't want to be using all that water just scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing to try and get something off, especially if you don't have a hot water system going. But with hot water, I would like to mention that you could always boil water in a pot and then use that to wash dishes. That was just a side note, something that I just thought of then that I hadn't really thought I was going to mention. Anyway, good tip, I guess. Another good tip is to cook vegan food only. For what I found is it's the easiest. It's gonna less likely make you sick when it comes to cleaning up things, and also if you don't have a fridge. It's also the cheapest if you're happy to eat very simple foods like seasonal fruits and vegetables, eating root vegetables or grains, eating beans, eating spices. So as some of you are aware, things like, depending on where you are in the world, potatoes are really cheap, rice is really cheap, beans are really cheap. Depending on what seasonal like fruits and vegetables there are, they're usually going to be really cheap. So it's obviously not only going to be budget friendly, but also when you think about dairy, eggs, meat, all that sort of stuff, and if you don't really have a water cleaning system going, then you know you're going to increase your chances of getting sick, and if you don't have a fridge to keep some of that stuff cold, also going to increase your chances of sick. I think the number one food that I've come across that's most at risk that is vegan, if it is not stored properly after it's cooked, is rice. But I'll let you do your research on that. So yeah, just be careful with rice in regards to storing it. It really does need to be stored in a cold place after it's cooked. That's something you kind of just want to be careful on when it comes to vegan food. Now, also planning. So planning your meals is going to help a lot. You don't really want to be a couple of hours out in nature away from anywhere and be really hungry and then have to drive to go and get that food, or maybe when that happens, the shop's closed. So, you know, planning a little bit is always good. Which also then segues on to the next point, which is learning about wild foods. So finding out what foods you might be able to eat in the wild. So there's actually lots of plants that you can learn about and explore. not all of them are edible. So please be careful, please do your research. I don't want people going out there and eating poisonous foods. I don't want people going out there and getting plants and not preparing them properly either, and then causing themselves some kind of sickness and whatnot. So just being careful. But if you've got some friends, or some elders, people that are kind of bush tucker experts, if you like to call it, and just go spend some time with them and learn some of these things. I'm involved in a couple of permaculture circles, so I often get to learn a lot about different bush tucker foods here in Northern Rivers and southeast Queensland, which is really nice. So you get to see some really nice foods that you're just driving around or you're wandering around, you're like, oh, there's a mango tree there, oh, there's a bunya nut tree there. And if it just happens to be the right time, it's not on someone's private property, you've asked for permission from the ancestors, from the spirits, yada yada yada, you can cook with it. I'll probably go into a bush food video another day. So if you really want to see that, let me know. Leave that in the comment section down below, because that could be a really good video. Anyway, I digress. Also, I have found that having an outdoor kitchen setup is really good if you can. Even if you do have an indoor kitchen, maybe even getting a gas cooker that sits outside, because one, it can make cleaning a lot easier, and two, can also make the space a lot less smelly. I don't tend to make foods that are very smelly. Like, I am vegan, I don't eat fish. I make curry every now and then. That's probably about as smelly as it kind of gets. So yeah, it's nice to cook outside if you can, or if you're inside, having lots of windows and things open if possible. Obviously, I understand that some of you are not always in very nice environments to cook outside, maybe absolutely freezing, but it's just a good thing to note. If possible, cook outside if you can. It also means you don't have to sweep the floor. If you get water on the floor, it's no big deal. If you get a capsicum seed, it's kind of dealt with itself. I'm not saying camping somewhere and then just leaving the absolute mess is fine, but a few seeds, a piece of a carrot here and there, it's not the end of the world, and often the earth really likes some organic matter put back into it anyway. So I digress again. Also, another tip is kind of about products, should I say. I'm not recommending any kind of product, I'm not paid to promote any kind of product, but finding some kind of multi-purpose, eco-friendly kind of cleaning product that's you can use in lots of different things is really handy. I find like Dr. Bronner's can be really good. So just finding something like that you can use to clean up lots of different things, because one, you don't want like 10 different cleaning products in your van, and two, you also want something that's really like eco-friendly, because you don't really want to put toxic chemicals in the space that you're living in, and also it getting into the spaces in which you are camping at. Another quick few tips, I guess, if you can try and find out some one-pot meal recipes, that's always really handy. So obviously having like a big pot which you can put quite a bit of food in is really good to have. And having things that might be like collapsible Tupperware is really good to have, because that can save space. If you're into things like tea, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I do like cacao. Having insulated drinking vessels are really good, whether that be like water bottles or a hot drink holder. That's always really nice, especially if you're in cold climates. Is something really nice when you're going camping. You can have like a hot drink and it's a bit chilly, especially in the evening or in the morning. It's obviously not a necessity for everybody, but it's just a really nice comfort factor. And who doesn't like a nice little cup of like tea, just to keep themselves kind of feeling comfortable in a camping environment. Now, another side tip to save a lot of the cooking process is you could obviously eat raw food. It could save a lot of cooking. However, it's not doable for everyone, and you would need like a really regular supply of like fresh, raw fruits and vegetables. That also can take up a lot of space, because a lot of that stuff is not like super calorie dense. So sometimes you have to eat a higher volume, which also means you need more space to store it. So yeah, but even if you weren't cooking, you're eating like a high, like a high carb, sort of low fat, raw vegan diet, you'd still need some utensils. You know, you'd still need a good flat chopping board, you'd still probably want a knife, maybe a few other little things as well, but you wouldn't have to worry so much about the cooking thing. Now, I know sometimes with electricity being a bit of a thing with some people's like living camping situations, I know sometimes you can get different options if you really did want to have some kind of electricity running through, like if you wanted a fridge or you wanted some kind of blender. There's lots of different options out there. They're not always necessarily the cheapest. So you could have a look into that for sure. If you really want a plumbing kind of put through so you could have some kind of cleaning setup situation inside your van, then look into that as well. And I would never really recommend having a shower or a toilet in a van or a camper van, because it's a whole lot of other thing you have to kind of deal with when it comes to plumbing and systems and smells, and then also having to find ways to safely remove that sort of stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't, but that's completely up to you. And that's also a sidetrack from what this video is supposed to be about. So yeah, if you have been doing quite a bit of van life and you've got some suggestions, some recommendations, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you're new to van life or you just have any other questions, please leave that in the comment section down below. You'll also find me on other various social media platforms. They are linked in the description box down below of this YouTube video. And I'm looking forward to maybe doing some more sort of van life tip videos. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, and I will see you in the next vlog. Bye.